want the story behind how it all started, this is how it all started.
Meet Amro Maskoun, the creative genius, redefining storytelling. What does it take to craft content that truly resonates? In this episode, we sit down with Amro, comedian, creative director, and the mastermind behind Book Creative to uncover his journey from People's Choice Award winner to a pioneer in storytelling. Amro shares how he uses humor to connect, the creative process behind unforgettable campaigns, and the challenges of leading a content powerhouse. Whether you're a creator, entrepreneur, or storyteller, this episode is packed with actionable insights to help you stand out, think bigger, and create better.
It's not about comedy, it's more than that. I felt so good creating that small piece of content.
What part of our journey is about finding our identity versus actually creating the identity that we want? Amr, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
I'm excited about this one.
Same here.
Okay, so as we start with all of our episodes, the show is about freedom. So what does freedom mean to you?
It's a very important thing I actually grew up with because a part of my journey in my life was being a refugee for almost 10 years. So somehow I think my freedom was limited because of the title I had when I was a teenager. So I think freedom for me is the ability of dreaming, no matter what your circumstances are.
Interesting. I also grew up as a refugee, so this is something we can unpack a bit later. But from your side, if you were to view your childhood as maybe like a movie, what would the title be and why?
I think dreamer, the dreamer. This is, like the word I really believe in since I was a child, and I, experienced this a lot growing older because I've always had dreams, and I've always believed that dreams were free. So, you get to dream as much as you want because they're free, and you're not going to lose anything if you put some, I'm not going to call them, goals. You just, set up some dreams, and they will become true if you work hard on them. So I think the dreamer is the best title of my life.
Interesting. Now, I think that would be true for a lot of people. As children, we don't know what's possible and what's not. So we want to dream. Maybe we want to be an actor or actress, or we want to be, like in my case, a world star soccer player, right? But then something happens. As we grow older, we realize certain things might not be possible, or people start to not believe in their dreams anymore. What do you think is the main reason behind that?
Behind abandoning some dreams.
Exactly, giving up on their dreams.
As you said, of course, the environment they grow up in plays a very, primordial role, actually. But the thing is, I think we tend sometimes to be, to stop, working hard just because, the society tells us to stop too. Or because, I don't know, maybe our parents are like, this is not good for you, this is not good enough for you. And we just think that they know better than what we actually know about ourselves. But again, they're called dreams because you somehow start to have, visions about them. And you're not going to know if they're not good for you unless you try them. So why, listening to others, opinions when you can really, try them yourself.
Yeah. Yep. And what was your dream?
Oh my God, a lot of things. So when I was a kid, I wanted to be a carpenter because I thought that, a carpenter is the person who does buildings. So I didn't know that, architect was the person who did that. And then I wanted to be an astronaut. I think all kids wanted to be, an astronaut at some point of their lives because I wanted to discover, the stars. I wanted to know the reason why stars were shining all the time, why the moon was following me when I was in the car with my mom. And then I started, understanding more that I was really interested in everything related to art. I found myself drawing all the time ever since I was a kid. And I found myself, changing our place decoration all the time, from interior design until to figuring out that I wanted to be an architect.
Interesting. When we all have, whether it's dreams or just living our everyday life, there always happens, there's always something that comes that creates this massive disruption. Mm-hmm. So in your case, you became a refugee.
Yeah.
How did that come about? I think we kind of know the story, but then how did that affect you on a personal level?
So it kind of started in a very crazy way because I remember, we left Syria in 2012. And mainly it was literally, like to see my brothers for the last time before they go to France, like say goodbye, like have this emotional moment as a family. And we wanted to go back with my mom, my dad, and my sister back to Syria. But the borders were closed and we got stuck in Turkey. And our, like main plan was literally to go to Istanbul for 1 week, like say goodbye to my brothers, because like my mom was like, if they move to France, like God knows whenever we're gonna like meet as a family. And this 1 week turned into like 13 years now, and we literally like left our apartment the way, like the same way when you go to a grocery store. Like we didn't take anything with us, like we didn't say goodbye to friends, to family, because we thought that we were gonna come back after 1 week. So somehow this like refugee like a journey was a very unplanned and unexpected journey, which was somehow interesting to me. Like at first it was extremely hard because I didn't understand what was going on. Like I was like 12 years old, and it started in Turkey, and then we had to move a lot. And when I say a lot, I mean like I really mean it. So somehow, like growing older, I started to stop believing in the word or notion of the belonging, because I didn't belong to anywhere. Because like we stayed for like we stayed in Turkey, then we moved to Lebanon, then we came to the UAE, after back to Turkey, then to France. So each and every single apartment we were staying in, I was like unpacking my stuff in a way where I can pack them easily again, because I was like, we're leaving this apartment like after a few months. So I didn't want to create like bonds and like a connection with the place we were staying in. So somehow it was really like the reason I think I shaped a lot of like aspects of my identity, if I may say that.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I can definitely relate to, right? Because I mean, I definitely didn't have as many shifts as you have. But when you leave a place that you've called home, and sometimes when we're born somewhere, we have this idea that we're going to be there forever, and that's going to be your home, and you're going to see these people all the time. And the first time that changes, it kind of creates this like separation. But then the second time and the third time, and then there comes a moment where you just become numb to it.
Exactly. Yeah.
And do you feel that not holding on to things, there's benefit in that? I mean, did that help you in other aspects of your life?
I think it's good and bad at the same time, because somehow it affected my relationship with people, because I started treating people the same way I treat places, meaning that I stopped believing in friendships, because I was like, I'm going to leave these people behind because I can't control my life. I can't control if my family is going to leave this place. I can't control. And again, it's not, like my family wanting to leave this place. It's the circumstances, like that we're going through that are actually forcing us to, like move and leave a country or a continent. So I was like, if I'm not being able to having, and I really love, like belonging, because I mean, like whenever you start growing older, you're like, I want to create a bond with, like something, because, like at the end of the day, wherever, if you travel, if you work, if you go to school, like subconsciously that there is a place where you will go and every single detail about that place. So somehow I had no safe zone, and my safe zone was like my family. And my family was separated into, like 6 different, like in 6 different countries. So I was like, which part of the family I have, like to rely on at this moment. And I think it affected me in a very, like bad way, as I said, when it comes to my relationship with people. But it taught me that I have to be completely, like independent, and I have to do, like things the way they should be done, in a fast and in a like independent way, because nobody's going to help me.
Yeah. Basically, most people are afraid of change, from changing. Mm-hmm. You have been forced in many changes because of your circumstance growing up, living in different places. So change has become a norm for you. So how did that help you, in terms of, because now when you look at your, you've created multiple characters, you've got taking risks and doing different things.
Well, do you believe that the topic of my graduation thesis was the architecture of belonging? So like, for example, it actually affected every single aspect of my life. So when I was like about to finish, like my bachelor degree, we have a thesis that we have to write, and like the graduation project. And I wanted to, like talk. I wanted to reflect, like my personal journey in this thesis, because I was like, it's my moment. Like I'm gonna have, like my bachelor degree one time in my life, and belonging was something I was questioning. Like when I was like in my early 20s, if I may say that, because I somehow, like started to belong to France, because all my good and beautiful memories with my family becoming, like a family again altogether was in France. Starting my academic, life in university was in France. And I started questioning the fact of belonging to this country, even though I'm not born and raised here. And I started, like my inner, like conscious was like saying, yes, you belong to this country because you're living here, and you're just, like this country gave you a lot of opportunities, and you're gonna, like keep on working here. So somehow I really was looking for this, like belonging creation, because I could say I was, like desperate for, like belonging. So the fact that I moved a lot shaped my journey in architecture, because I would find myself creating a different concept in a different part of the world for each project. And I would find myself always, like having an inspiration for a theme or for a concept of my, like project, inspired or either from the Turkish culture, or from the Syrian one, or from, like my, I don't know, my meeting with an Iraqi guy. So I think that it taught me how to look at the globe as if we're like all at the same place with no borders and, like boundaries. Because for me, I was a refugee back then, and I had no passport. My passport was like a travel document, which was not considered a regular passport. So I was like, if I don't belong to a specific place, then I can belong to the entire, globe. And if I start, like speaking about my characters, I mean, somehow I also try to reflect this craziness and, different situations I experienced, either, like in my childhood with my family in Syria, or growing in Turkey with some of my Turkish friends and Turkish family. And I would find myself, like creating different situations in different places, even for the characters.
Yeah, and this is why I was asking, because so I was born in Somalia, and I was there till age 10, then moved to Kenya. We had to take a escape in the Indian Ocean by boat because of the war. Went from Kenya to Egypt, lived there for 2 years. Went from Egypt to US, lived there for 23 years. Moved from US to Dubai, 8 years. How? So when people actually, before I even say people, like I love watching soccer, right? And before the game start, there's the national anthem. And I see people, the players and the fans, and just standing up, and you can see how proud they are.
Yeah.
Solidarity with their country. And sometimes I'm like, where do I belong to? Am I Somalian? Well, I've only been there till 10, and yes, that is where I was born. Egypt is a very big part of me. I felt like I kind of learn how to cope with a lot of the difficulties in life there, especially from a young age. The US, I've dealt with a lot there. I mean, there's a big part of me that's American, deal. So I think the beauty in it, even though I cannot, even though sometimes I wish I can just have a flag and say, yes, this is where I belong to. But I think there's beauty in having all these different traits and learning, something from here and the culture from there. And that's an advantage where most people don't have. And sometimes for myself, I don't know if you feel the same way, but I have a hard time connecting with people who do have belonging, because sometimes they only have one perspective.
100%, yeah. 100%.
Right? They only see the world one way.
Yeah.
Where I've seen the world in 7 different ways.
Yeah.
And it might be hard to carry on a conversation.
Definitely. You're like, there's, like a gap between us, and we can't, understand each other, because like for them, you've seen too much. And for you, they've never seen a thing. So, and it's not, it's not their mistake or yours, but you were like, we grew up, differently. And again, I completely, agree with you about, this anthem thingy, because somehow I never, even, when I finished my presentation for my graduation thesis, I ended it with an open question to the jury, because I told them, do I belong? Do I belong, and do I have an identity? because I was still looking for answers. And until this day, I'm looking for an answer actually. Because I think, like now, ever since I moved to Dubai 3 years ago, I feel that I belong to this country. I feel that I belong to the UAE because I'm living here. I am loving the country. I'm loving, like the opportunities I'm having here, the life I'm creating here. I would definitely, like be more than happy to, like have a very, long chapter of my life here. But again, I'm like, who am I?
Yeah.
Like somehow I feel that my family is still in France. And whenever I go back to my, like teeny tiny apartment there, I'm like, this is where it all started. So am I, like more French than Syrian? Because again, I mean, like I left Syria at the time where you were about, like to shape your, like personality as a, like as a grown up man. 12 years old, like you've actually literally experienced nothing. I wasn't allowed to go out with my friends, like I was always, like visiting my family with my mom and dad. So it's not the same way I did in Turkey and France, where I was like, like able to literally, like scan the entire city and, like walk around alone. So that's why, like, and that's why I think that you connect to a place more when you start, like walking in it, when you start, like creating memories around the streets. And I definitely have no memories, like in Aleppo, because I used to be a very introvert, like kid when I was in Syria. And I never remember myself, like asking my family to go out when I was like in Syria. It's literally, like when we have Eid, from Eid to Eid, I go with them to see family and that's it. I used to hate, like going out with friends. I used to hate, like playing with my, like with the other students, because I used to, like to love studying and painting all the time.
I want to get into in a bit about content creation and entrepreneurship, all that stuff. But I still feel like this is a really important topic because before people get on those journeys, they struggle with their identity.
Yeah.
Right. I might be like, oh, I would love to create a YouTube channel or have my presence in social media, but I am an introvert or I don't like, and then that shapes us. So talking about identity, what part of our journey is about finding our identity and versus actually creating the identity that we want?
Well, somehow I feel that they both, at some point, they blend together because, like the identity you create on, let's say, social media is somehow based on things you've experienced or you witnessed or you want people to, like relate to, if we're talking about, like real moments. Or you just create a fake one, which is actually based somehow on true events, either in your conscious or that you want people, like to somehow relate to. And I think that in my case, I would say that my characters, I created, like an imaginary family, which was literally inspired from, I would say, every single, like at first I thought it was every single Halabi family, which is, like the city I come from. And then I was like, no, actually, like it's bigger than that. The scale is larger. Then I said, it's like every Syrian family. And then when people started, like relating from all over the world, I was like, this is not, like a Syrian thing. This is an Arab thing. And somehow when you do, like silent videos, you start seeing, like Turkish families saying, oh, that we have the same. And that's when you know that somehow we are all similar when it comes to the identity we create in the first 12 to 15 years, because you're actually being somehow, like taught a lot of stuff from your family. And then after that, you start developing every single, like aspect.
Yeah. No, totally. Like I feel like in my journey, it was two parts, right? First is the identity that I've witnessed of what the world around me kind of shaped me as, maybe through parenthood, culture, religion, etc. And then I'm like, okay, as you mentioned in the start, like you have a dream, you want to create things, but you feel that there's constant blocks. There's a battle between the identity that you've kind of been shaped as to the person that you want to become. And at some point, you have to create a change to the self-image, right? And it's not easy. And it's not, and unfortunately, most people never leave that identity that was created for them. So for me, it was really one of the hardest things is to accept that, look, if I really want the life that I want, this person that I am today is not going to lead me there.
Of course, yeah.
Right? So then what uncomfortable decisions do I have to make? Whether it's doing this podcast. Like I told myself for years, like, you don't, you're not the guy in front of the camera. Just strategize for people who are meant to be. You're not gonna be. You don't know how to speak well. No one's gonna be interested to listen to you. All these things were just messages that stemmed from someone telling me when I was 12, you're not interesting.
Yeah.
And somehow it kind of developed. So I feel, this is a constant battle, as you said. And at some point, you have to decide whether you are going to accept the person that you are, or you are going to awaken that rock star. I feel like we all have this rock star in us.
Of course, yeah.
That wants to come out, but you just have to give that person the permission.
I just have to ignite this light that is, like literally waiting for this moment.
Yes. So now, coming to you've shifted from this, as you mentioned. It's hard to imagine you as an introvert person, seeing your content today. But what led to the decision to come to create your own content and basically build the massive audience that you have today?
Well, usually you would hear, like the same answer, the classic way. It all started suddenly, like out of the blue. But honestly, I think I'm very old on social media. I'm 26 years old now, but I think that I'm old because I started when there was an application called Vine. I don't know if you're familiar. It all started in the States. So I had no phone actually. I had an iPad that I got when I, was the first on my class before, leaving Syria, obviously. And half of the applications weren't even, working on an iPad. And I had no phone. So I was trying always, to find a way, to download these applications because I wanted, to cope with what's going on in the world. And somehow after, an update that Apple had offered us, I managed to, download Vine. And I started seeing these people, creating stuff. And I was like, wow, how is this happening? Creating videos in 6 seconds. And back then you couldn't, edit the video on an external, application, then upload it. You had to do everything within the application itself. And I was like, this is cool. And then Instagram started. And I was like, I felt that I wanted to do something. I used to, to film myself and put it in the archives, or, ever since I was a kid, I used to do a lot of characters in front of the mirror, but there was no social media. And then when this Vine thingy started, I was like, there's no way we can create content in Arabic and make people laugh in 6 seconds because we talk a lot and we need, more than that. And then Instagram started, and we had these 15-second videos on Instagram. And I remember one day, again, speaking of this introvert, whenever people, see me, they're like, you can't be introvert. And they always, give me the same comment that you're completely different than the way you, show us yourself on socials. I'm like, when I film my videos, I'm alone. There's no one in front of me, it's me, the camera or the phone, and that's it. So I'm showing you, the side that I want you somehow to see, but in my real life, this is not who I am. I can't make you laugh 24/7. And the reason I started relating to comedy, actually, when I was a kid, I used to enjoy watching Jim Carrey's movies all the time. Dumb and Dumber, Ace Ventura, The Mask, all these things were, an inspiration to me. But I never, felt that I wanted to be, a comedian or, how the society call it, a clown or something. And I felt that I was somehow, as you mentioned, there was a spark inside of me, and I really wanted to, ignite this light. And one day I just, created one video, and I had a private Instagram account. And again, I had no one following me beside, some of the family members who knew how to use, Instagram. And few people from my high school, because I will, speak about, the other part where, I was bullied extremely a lot in high school. And that's why I had no friends. And that's why, I started hating people more and more and more. And when I started doing these videos, I was going through an extreme depression, and I didn't know it was depression until I moved to France. Now that I, see everything from a very, zoomed out point of view, I understand that that was not normal, and I started figuring this out after, going through it. So I felt that I needed an escape because I couldn't find an escape by speaking to my family because all of my family members weren't okay. So I couldn't, add another pressure on them. I couldn't find an escape in the city because I felt like a stranger. I couldn't find an escape in my school because I hated my school and I hated the people with me in my class. And I needed something because I felt that I was, drowning, like somehow to the bottom of the ocean. And I created this video one day, and it was about washing the dishes in Ramadan. And I just posted it on my Instagram, and somehow I just felt that there was, a voice inside of me, saying that, turn just your video into, turn your account into a public one. I left my iPad at home because you can't use it.
Still doing it with iPad.
Yeah, of course. Everything started with an iPad, like for 3 years, not exaggerating. And I still have the exact same iPad in France, not throwing this one. And I can't even open it because, it's an iPad too. And I left my iPad at home and I went out with my mom and sister. And I came back. And again, I had, I think, 60 followers, something like that. And I just see 10K on my Instagram. I'm like, what does K mean? What does K stand for? I was like, 100, there's no K. 1,000, there's no K. Like, what does it mean? I Googled, what does, K stand for? And I was like, 10,000 followers. I was like, huh? Why are these people in my place? I felt that they're all in my apartment. I felt extremely overwhelmed. And I saw that, a lot of pages reposted my video and they were like, please make us, laugh more and more. I was like, let's calm down. I've got, my exams coming. Nothing's going to happen. It was, a mistake and that's it. So I swear, it all started in a very unplanned way. And somehow after, having my exams, after finishing everything, I was like, I felt so good creating that small piece of content. And back then we didn't even, call it piece of content. We called it, short videos. And somehow I started, watching YouTube videos about, editing, using the camera of, your front camera of an iPad. And I used to bring, this tape to tape my iPad, on the back of the chair because I had no stand. I had nothing, no knowledge, zero knowledge about, tripods and everything. So if you want the story behind how it all started, this is how it all started. So it was literally an unplanned road for me.
Yeah, so here's what I love about that, right? So this show really, it's the journey to freedom, and you can call it the journey to your calling, to your purpose, etc. And one of the reasons most people never get started is because they overcomplicate things, they overplan, they overthink. And I always say the most important thing is just take action. You don't know. I mean, you took action, whether you knew what was going to happen, whether you didn't know, you posted the video, you took action, you went out, you came back, you got your 10K, which today it's a little bit more than that. So that experience was obviously an eye-opening experience, but then later on, I'm sure you were a bit more strategic, you were a bit more, aware of the content you're creating. So if somebody was starting today, and let's just say they did start, what advice would you give them to help them grow?
They just have to, be genuine and to understand that there's literally, a thin line between what you call a hobby and a full-time job. Because if I go back in time to 2014, it was never meant to be, a full-time job. It was literally whenever I have, a free time, some free time for me, I just go and create a piece of content and that's it. But now, and again, now it's even, getting more complicated to me because now if I don't have everything planned ahead, I just don't film or I don't create. And that's where I start questioning myself, am I losing, this genuine, authentic side of me because I want to overcomplicate everything? So if you really think that there is, and again, you really have to understand the fruit and the essence of the word passion. Are you literally passionate about this thing? Do you want to wake up every single day and do a better version of what you did the day before? If the answer is yes on all these, aspects, then yes, go and be as authentic as possible, as genuine as possible, because people want, easy content. They want, to relate. They just don't want, good lighting. They don't want, a perfect camera. It's something that you open. And I think that the reason people, resonated with my content, it was because first inspired from daily things that happen with us, either with our moms, different family members. And again, because it was so raw, like there was no filter. The camera was so bad. Like people, like used to tell me, are you filming with a Nokia or something? Because it was that bad. But whenever I go back to these comments and I read them, they're like, this is what made you because you didn't, like had to complicate things to make us laugh. And that's, like, it's exactly the same thing for me. Whenever I look back at these movies I used to watch, they're bad, like when it comes to filming, they're extremely bad. But back then they were amazing. So you just don't have to, like jump 3 steps ahead and let people, like see that, like there's an amazing production behind that.
Yeah. And why did you choose the comedy path?
I needed an escape. I needed a refuge, and comedy was that. It felt so good somehow to wear this happy kid mask in front of the camera for hours, because deep inside I felt that if I keep on convincing myself that I can make other people laugh, somehow it will reflect on my inner person and I will start laughing from the inside. Because somehow, like, I think that it's a bit brutal, like for a kid who's like 14, 15-year-old to say that I was dead from the inside, because literally I was extremely, like dead, zero emotion, zero, like I used to cry a lot and I still, but the thing is I really had I had a lot of dreams, but I had no energy to, like get off my bed and start chasing them. Because again, there was this inner voice telling me, like, you're nothing, you're a refugee at the end of the day, you can't even, like leave the country you're living in. So why, like, running after your dreams? Why chasing them? Because they're not going to happen eventually. So somehow I was like, if I make people laugh, somehow, like God and the, like universe will like give it back to me.
Yeah. And that's so true, because when I look at the best comedians, whether it's Robin Williams, Jim Carrey, Dave Chappelle, they all have something in common, right? They all come from a place of pain. So if you study their childhood, is there a correlation between people who've kind of gone through that type of experience to feel comfort in making other people laugh? Because technically the audience might think you're creating this comedy for them, but actually it's for you.
Yeah. It's a cure. I mean, like, I still call it, like, even in my portfolio, like if you open it, you would say comedy is my remedy. I think somehow when I started, like at some moment of my journey in Turkey, I was a volunteer with a humanitarian association helping the traumatized kids that been, like through severe war, and they were like from all over the plate, like the world. And somehow we used, like to make them laugh, to, like help them, to play with them. And the worst part of it was that we weren't allowed to create bonds with them because, like somehow they're traumatized. And if you let them feel that you are their new friend and then you leave, you will, like literally, like re-traumatize them once again. So somehow that period of my life actually was a changing or a transition point of my life where I started to see why I started comedy. It's because I really love seeing other people laugh, and I really want them to have an escape, which is free, because I was looking for a free refuge or an escape when I wasn't finding one. And I was like, if I'm not able to be happy and I can make other people happy, then why not? It's literally costing me nothing. So I think that's, like the main reason why I started comedy, and I still believe in it.
Do you also feel it allows you to look at the funny side of things in life? Because some people take things too serious and they only look at the negative things, if whether the glass is half empty or half full argument. But do you think as a comedian?
I don't think so, because you know what? Like the most funny videos I've ever created were created after an anxiety attack or a panic attack. So I used to be like funny the most when I was, like finishing with my crying session. And because literally, like whenever I feel extremely down, I'm like, okay, empty these tears, like let them go and then go create a video. So I don't think, like comedy helped me to look at the fun part of things in life generally, no.
Okay. You also talk a lot about mental health.
Yeah.
Can you give us, why is that an important topic to you?
I think it's a very abandoned. I mean, like it's very abandoned in the Middle East when it comes to like mental health and men. And I mean, like men talking about mental health. It's like a notion that never existed, and I actually got to understand it after I think moving to France again, after realizing that I was going through depression, after like having a session with a therapist, and after realizing that what was going on wasn't okay, and I should have spoken to someone. But again, because we don't have because of this lack of like knowledge about mental health in the Middle East, you will never know that like what's going on in your life is something that you shouldn't go through alone. And that's why at some moment, and I would say like especially when I started documenting like this asylum journey in France, I was like, it's okay to go and ask for help. And at first like comments were like, no, like we're not sick, we're not ill, this is like an illness. I mean, like, but at the same time go like wash the dishes or go pray or like go talk to your family, because like this is not okay. I mean, like it's not okay to go to a doctor because you're feeling not okay. Like why should we like when you have a headache you take painkillers, and it's the same thing when you have like something that's literally inside of you and that you don't understand. You have to ask for help. And I started actually reflecting my personal journey on my personal social media platforms to tell them that it's okay to ask for help. And I kept, like posting videos about mental health, about, like especially men asking for mental health, because I don't know why it's not okay for men to cry and to express their feelings in our society. Yeah. And it's still, like very, like feminine to show your tears in public. Whereas I always, like tell people that when God, like created human beings, we all have the same nerve system. Like we have the same emotions, less or more, like if I like hit you now, you're going to cry, you're going to say out, like you're going to scream. It doesn't mean that you're like a girl if you do so. And that's why I always try to, like keep on talking about that, because it's somehow, it was literally, like a big part of my journey.
Yeah. So society kind of says, as a man, you're supposed to be strong,
tough,
and you're going to be tough, and you're going to be this, and you're going to be that. But what they're actually saying is, as a man, you got to hold everything inside.
Yeah.
And no matter how tough things are, don't let it out. And it's kind of like if you take a plastic bag, no matter how strong that plastic bag is, if I keep pouring things to it and water and a balloon,
it'll get heavier,
heavier and heavier. But there will be a breaking point. There will be a, and there's nothing manly about holding something till eventually it explodes, till the last one. This is what happens. This is where you see relationships break apart.
Of course, accumulation.
Right? It's just accumulation. And this is actually something for me, maybe about 2-3 years ago, because I talk about identity. I built this identity that, Nido, everybody comes to you for help because you're the strong person. You're the person that people rely on. You're not weak. You're not this. And I remember going, talking to my friend 2 years ago, 2022, and I'm like, hey man, we're having lunch. I'm like, he's like, how you feeling? He goes, then I answer, sometimes I just want to cry. I don't know why.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
It's not like someone is yelling at me but I'm like, I'm just so tired.
Yeah.
That
just let it go.
And it was the starting, or the beginning of the journey where I felt comfortable talking to other people about my personal challenges and things that I was confused about, things I needed help with, things I needed clarity. And even if they didn't provide an answer, the fact that I just let it out, it was so liberating.
Of course.
It was so freeing,
It's the same. Is there a reason like why you get hungry or why you want to feel happy? It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just feel that you're not okay and there might be no reason behind it. You just feel that you need to cry. So just do it.
Yeah. Do you feel, I know in the West, I know this is a very big topic, but do you think it's getting better and better in this part of the world now?
I hope so.
Yeah.
But personally, I mean, like still in our society, I think no. I mean, like from what I see on, like socials, of course, awareness is there, but acceptance is still like we still need to work a lot
Yeah.
on this.
Yeah.
Especially, when, family members, parents should educate their kids more and more about that. Difference, the fact that, some people might be more vulnerable than us. Some people might, express themselves by crying, and that does not make them less man, especially at school when you're like a kid. If you start crying, and I remember, hearing this all the time when I was, a kid in Syria, whenever you cry or something happens, oh, stop acting like girls. Like, for God's sake, the kid won't say that unless he hears that at their place, when he cries, for example, at home, his mom's like, stop crying like your sister. Like, if he continues on hearing this from you, he will definitely reflect the same thing on others at school. And this is not okay, because as I mentioned, some people might be more vulnerable. Some people might, be extremely, fragile when it comes to people, insulting them in public.
Yeah. And I mean, we see men cry all the time, right? I mean, we see men in sporting competitions. They win a game, they lose a game, they're crying. We see men cry maybe at a funeral. So it's not the act of crying. I think it's that they're given certain things the wrong context.
Yeah, they're just, I mean, at these, I would say at these, events, it's like they have a certificate of, justifying crying because, somebody died, or you want something, so you're allowed to cry as a man when it comes to a very, a severe or an extreme, event. Otherwise, it's just, you're being girly.
Yeah, exactly. Not every, I know Gladiator is coming out, and that's the image that they want every man to have, which I don't think it's ideal. I want to jump into you starting your agency for creative.
Yeah.
Tell me more about that journey and how, because it seems like you've taken this passion. You're like, okay, I'm really, really good at this, and maybe it was a passion over just something you did for fun, and then it turned into something real. So what was that transition like?
So somehow after moving to Dubai, again, I never actually had social media as a full-time job ever since, I was in France, because again, with my college and stuff, I wasn't, dedicated. Whenever I have free time, I just do a YouTube video and Instagram, that's it. And after moving to Dubai, I was like, this is not what I want to do. I want to do, more than that. And I started, reshaping my new identity, the person I really want to be. It's not about comedy, it's more than that. I want to create content where I put somehow the artistic concepts I got to learn in my architectural journey, and I wanted everything to have a theme behind, where you tell a story somehow. And somehow I started feeling more and more passionate and attracted to content where you have a story. And I started investing in my own content, because I'm like, if there's no one who's going to invest in you, you just have to invest in yourself. And that's the, the most beautiful and successful investment ever. And I started shifting into more acting and telling stories using different characters beyond family members, because I was like, you know what? I've done that for 8 years. 8 years now. This has to, somehow there should be a balance. And people, I could say, that my audience was a bit shocked at first, because they're like, we got used to you, doing mom character, the grandpa, all these, characters that we relate to. Now you're taking, your content to a new, level where there's production, there's story, there's, good lighting, and we're not used to that. And again, social media is not made for, big production. You want to do big production, go to cinema and TV. Otherwise, they want soft light content all the time. And Instagram, again, says it's a very phone-friendly, platform. But somehow I was like, you know what? I completely respect you, but this is not who I want to be as a full-time content creator. It's not what you want me to be. It's what I want to wake up every day and feel more passionate about creating. And I was trying to find this balance, but I started, investing in this, big production when it comes to my commercials, especially. And I created this new era of Amro that I completely admired. And somehow I started, receiving from other content creators and companies that I know or I don't in Dubai, telling me that we really love your approach to ideas. We love the way you write. We love the way, you see things. Could you please, like help us with our content? And I was like, oh, wow, like there is a lack in the market when it comes to, like ideas. Production companies, you've got a lot. Like you've got a lot of production houses, production hubs. So I'm not here to produce, an entire, like a series or an entire a movie for you. It's more about, like giving you the artistic side, the concept, the idea, and the creative direction of it. And that's where Ufuq was, like born. And Ufuq means horizon. And the reason I called it Ufuq is that because whenever I start, like brainstorming or imagining things in my head, I look to the horizon. And somehow I feel that I send my imagination to the horizon, and the horizon brings it back, shaped in an amazing way where you can, put it on a beautiful, like plate and serve it to people. And at the same time, it was, I had a very weird connection to clouds and horizon when it was the first time, like when I was on a plane going from Turkey to France alone to see my family after, like 5 years. And the sky offered me an amazing horizon that I could never, ever, like forget. And I still have that boarding pass. I swear to God, it was 21st of October, 2016. And I wanted to keep this memory somehow in a, like in a physical form. Tangible form. And that was Ufuq.
Yeah.
So, and we started creating for other content creators, and then companies, then big productions. And somehow I started doing big productions, which I was afraid of, because, like at some point when you serve, like someone an idea, they're like, we can't do it the same way you see it. So can you please come and do it for us? And we're like, we're going to be the main actors for that one. So that was, like in a nutshell, like the story of Ufuq.
Yeah. So there are a lot of people in our audience, they might be in a corporate job, or they might be doing something that is really not just what they want to do. And one thing that I'll constantly say is, look, in today's world, you can have the most amazing skills, but if you're not really demonstrating it on social media, and no one's going to know about it. So for you, obviously, you started doing this content, you were great at it. Other people noticed, they're like, hey, like, can you help the brother out, right? And now you've got something behind it. What tips would you give someone who's just kind of like, how do I start, and how do I take my story and my skills out there so I too can build something else behind it?
First thing you need to do, I really love this quote where it says, if you want to earn money, you've got to spend money. Mm-hmm. And you can apply this on passion. You can apply this on effort, on everything. You can't ask people, to like your video if you're not spending a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of, brainstorming sessions behind. And you can't ask for companies to believe in your talent and to give you more money if you don't spend money and if you don't invest in every single aspect of your life. And by that, I mean, like, you've got to, it's not about winning. It's not about losing. It's about, being seen, being heard, showing up, going to the arena and, having this battle with yourself, with your, fears. It's okay to have fears. A pinch of fear is perfect because we all need it. But at the same time, it will inspire, if you keep listening to that thing, it will inspire you to stop. It will inspire you to, kill every single dream inside of your head. So just go, try, lose. It's okay to, to fail, to not maybe, one strategy. You've got to, test everything out. And that's what I really did in 2023, where I literally had to experience every single personality of me, how I see, content creation and which identity I want to create. And somehow you see that, when people get used to you on social media in a certain way and you just somehow, shock them with a new character or identity or, approach, they're like, okay, we're going to stop liking your videos. We're going to, discourage you because this is not what we want to see. And I completely understand because they got used to it. But at the same time, the first main question is, do I want to do what people want to see? Or do I want to make it sustainable and do what I believe in and what I want to wake up every single day and I'm more passionate about what I do?
So, but how do you deal with that, right? I totally agree. But when you post content and you've dealt with this, and someone's like, "Khara," I don't
Half a
horrible.
million like for my comedy video and 20,000 like for a video that cost me $10,000 of production.
There you go, and the negative comments. I mean,
course.
so how do you go back and be like, okay?
Well, you know what? Negative comments, I really love, I hope I remember, like what Theodore Roosevelt once said, like the thing that the credit goes to the person who's in the arena, who's fighting, who's having this battle. Otherwise, if you're not in the arena where your ass is being kicked, then I don't care about your feedback.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. You can't be doing nothing in your life and expecting, like for me just to make you laugh and to give you what you really want because you don't want me to somehow grow personally, professionally, and have this new, approach of me, like maturing, because it's not, like when I created these characters, for me, it was different characters. You can't put me in a box. You can't label me. And that's why I studied architecture. That's why I'm applying architecture in my, content, because I hate routine and I hate being labeled and I hate being put, like inside a box where I'm like, yeah, you cannot do anything beside Suzanne, which is, like the mom character or, like the grandma character. No, I can do whatever I want because this is my journey. Yeah. And if you want to be part of it, then I completely respect that. If you don't want to, you cannot give me bad comments because it's my journey.
Yeah. One of my mentors used to say, if you haven't pissed off somebody by noon, you haven't had a productive day. And what he's really saying is anyone who's done something meaningful in life, they have to have a certain amount of people that don't like them, that hate them, that, disapprove of whatever the act is that they're doing. It doesn't matter whether you're the prophet or you're Muhammad Ali or your Mother Teresa. We've all got, but most people, that's what's holding them. The fear of judgment. Fear of how would I look if I do this, and it becomes stupid. But you're like, okay, it will be. Some of them will be stupid. Some of them will be bad.
It's okay. We don't have perfect. We don't make perfect choices all the time. And again, it's not only social media. This is what I try to tell like the audience from time to time. Even from before social media, we used to get judged by family members, by cousins, by like people at our school. So it's not social media now that the spotlight is actually like under and on the content creators. People are like, oh my God, we're going to be judged. But you were being judged since you were like a kid.
Yeah.
And that's why we have traumas, and that's we have, like some health issues because we were being criticized ever since we were kids. And I still, like for example, in my case, social media didn't, tell me that I had, like a very weird voice, but it was from way before, like from my school, my elementary school, my high school. I got bullied because my voice back then wasn't, like tough enough as a boy or as a man. And I wasn't on social media. And at some moment I stopped talking and I stopped asking questions. And I used to, like to wait for professors and, like teachers to finish from their class. And I would, like ask my questions privately because I was afraid. And that was, if I have one regret in my life, it would be, like me not standing out and me not being able to speak up and defending myself back then. So if you're like having those fears, which is fine, but if you want to, like swim with them, then that's not normal.
It's actually people look at it wrong. I think like when you're young, you're absolutely right. I mean, like thinking about the brutal bullying that I've gone through, right? And I'm sure I know you've gone through a lot as well. And you don't have a choice of the audience then. Yeah. Like you don't choose your family members.
Yeah.
So whether they love you or they don't like you, it's a matter of luck or chance. The school you go to and the friends that you have. But social media it's not about satisfying those who are different than you. It's about connecting those who are like you. And that's why being authentic.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. That's why you should not care about having more followers. It's not the mass that counts. It's literally you have to care about having the same group who respects your values. You could be different, but they would be okay with you being your own character, your own personality. So that's what really matters. And at some moment of my, life on social media. I was like, you know what? Comedy will help you, like grow. You will get more followers. But I was like seeing that those followers, they don't look like me. They're not the same. Not all of them. So do I really want to keep all of them? When I start creating, like something related to art or architecture or perfumes because I'm interested in perfumes, if you want to unfollow me because I love art, then it's fine. We could be different. It's normal. So your main focus, your main goal shouldn't be, like on creating the biggest platform ever. And that's so unfortunate because this is what we see, like when we just, like witness the journey of other content creators or, like influencers telling people, like this is how you grow. This is how you, like get more followers by, like posting constantly, by, like connecting to people, by doing what they want. And the question is, when are you going to do what you want?
And I think that's the biggest question that we should ask ourselves in life, because our entire life is based on doing what other people want, whether it's our parent, our society, our culture. You go on social media, you see all these people doing their thing, and you think their thing is the thing you should be doing as well. Oh, but this guy has 5 million followers, or this guy has 2 million followers. But you don't know there are people who have 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 followers and are doing extremely well in these weird subjects.
I know.
But most of us miss that because we want the visibility, we want the recognition.
Of course.
Yeah. I know we're coming towards the end of this interview, and as you mentioned, we can talk on for another 2 hours. Let's say we're having this conversation 5 years from now.
Oh God.
Can you think that far ahead, or should we make it 12 months?
Oh God.
Okay. I mean, you're still 26, right? I mean,
Yeah, but 5 years, 21. I was, I think, my second year at college.
Yeah.
I was literally, like running across the streets of Lyon in France, like chasing my architectural dream. And no, I think, like back then I wouldn't have the same vision because again, like social media wasn't a big part of my life. Like honestly, because if I've been on social media since, like 2014, but I think that I started connecting and understanding, like the social media techniques after COVID. Literally when we had, like some time where we can, like do a zoom out and, like see our life from another perspective. But yeah, 5 years ago, oh God.
Yeah. So what would you want to have happen in those 5 years to say, you know what, like I'm making the impact that I want to make in this world?
Well, I'm so satisfied with the way I got to, like mature during, like my teenaging. And I wouldn't change anything, but I would, like, again, as I said, I regret not listening to my gut more and more, like I regret not standing out for myself, not helping myself, not going to more therapy sessions for sure. Because somehow I think that now I've got so many things, like to make up, which is really hard, which is really, really hard and costly.
Yeah,
I'm thinking about my credit card now. But I would tell Amro to take things, like easier than the way they should be, like taken, and not to overcomplicate things.
Do you feel... I mean, you've kind of said it in the comedy perspective, right? Like whenever you feel a certain way, you want to make people laugh and kind of makes you feel better. But even the things that you haven't done for yourself in the past, helping other people who might be on where you were then, but they're there now, to fight for themselves, to stand up for who they are. Is that something that you feel like is a very important part of your message?
Yes, actually, yeah, and I actually witnessed that, and I know some therapists actually who told me that, of course, they didn't reveal names because, like they can't, but they kept telling me that whenever they give them this, like form or sheet they have to fill about, like what makes you happy in life or something like that, they said that many of them were writing my name because I was their, like secret friend in their hard times. And that's when I never regret, like starting as a comedian. And it was, like at another moment of my life when I started doing stand-up comedy shows where I started seeing people laugh instead of reading their comments. And it felt extremely, extremely overwhelming. Because when you're on stage, Like you don't see the audience because of, like the lights, but you hear people laughing and cracking up. It started in Jordan, then Turkey, then Dubai. And I would never, forget my stand-up comedy show here in Dubai where I made everyone, like laugh for 2 hours. That was one of my pride moments ever.
I think I might need to get some advice on how to make, like, I'm one of those guys, like, I think I'm funny, but I probably laugh more at my jokes than other people. But then my thing is like, well, as long as I'm laughing, like, it's still, you know what I mean? Like,
Somehow it doesn't work like that because somehow, when I post videos,
Yeah.
maybe because I've, edited them for 3 hours
True.
that I stop, laughing at them and I see myself as, the worst person ever. But somehow, if it doesn't make you laugh for at least 15 minutes, people are so hard. You can make people cry easily,
Yeah.
but you can't make them laugh the same way. So you've got, understand what they and how they, react to comedy. And that's why I think that creating this imaginary family and adding a bit of my, spices, especially to the mom character, that was the main one ever since 2014. I think it's their favorite character, Suzanne.
But when you're on stage, it's a bit different dynamic, right?
It's hard because you need to improvise a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a script. Of course, I read all, again, the keywords. We were talking about that. But, when people, like, for example, there was a lady who was, chewing a gum in a very loud way. And that was disturbing for me on stage. I started improvising a new scenario with her, telling her, in the mom character that you're not behaved. You need to go to your mom and get slapped on the face for doing that,
Yeah.
And people were cracking. We did a gender reveal on this stage that was not planned. So improvising is really important when it comes to stand-up comedy. And that's when I realized that stand-up comedy isn't my thing. And I want to stick more to acting and, having a script and being behind the camera.
Being a comedian, kind of like, so I'm a marketer. As a marketer, I need to understand human behavior.
Yeah.
I need to understand what makes people tick. So as a comedian and someone who needs to understand human beings, what are some of traits or characteristics that you've learned about people?
They love short videos. They love, generally they love comedy because I call comedy the makeup of everything. You can use comedy to, make everything more beautiful, but I think people love real, authentic situations that they've experienced somehow they could relate to. Like if you create something that doesn't exist and you make it fun, they would be, haha, it's okay. But if you take, for example, something they've witnessed growing, up, or they've seen their mom doing all the time, and you just add some exaggeration, spices on it, they would crack. So it's literally, the best comedy for me is the comedy that is inspired from our places, from our relationship with our family members, especially moms.
Interesting. But the main thing, as you mentioned, is put people in situations that they're familiar with.
100%.
But just add a little bit more.
Of course.
Interesting. We started this with, what is freedom mean to you? Now, what has been your favorite part of your journey so far?
Oh God.
It can be a fan story. It can be a moment where maybe your mom kind of showed how proud she was, but just something that was like, man, I know this journey wasn't easy, but this moment right now, I can say it was all worth it.
I would say, it's a very funny story. When I now, see the trophy in my place, it's the People Choice Awards moment, because I was in France. I was, I had a project, I had an assignment, and I received the email. It was still, on my graduation year, and I didn't move to Dubai back then. And I received this email, and I'm like, PCA. What does PCA mean? People Choice Award. I Googled it, People Choice Award. I was like, oh God, this is, LA. There's no way. I thought it was, a scam, and I just, I deleted the email. And that's it, خلاص. A week later, I received the exact same email, like with confidential and, like capitals in red, do not transfer, do not, like, I was like, what's going on? And I saw that there was, like a number at the end, and I just, like copy, paste, WhatsApp. I was like, let's go to WhatsApp. And I was like, hi, like I received this email. What's going on? Could you please, like elaborate more? She's like, yes, you've been nominated for this People Choice Awards, and it's the first time happening in the Middle East because it's, like a Western thing. And I'm like, okay. She's like, you're the best, like content creator of the year, and you just need to, like give us some pictures of you. So when we open, like the voting sessions, we have all the assets. I'm like, okay. Again, I took my phone this time, not my iPad, and I took some pictures and I sent it. And I started, like asking people to vote for me. And I was like, there's no way I could win this one because, like I was competing against, like people who had 15 million followers, like 10 million followers. And back then I had maybe 2.5, I can't remember. And again, I was like, I had, like assignments, projects. I wasn't focusing all the time on this. And I was forgetting, like to remind people voting for me. And then I came to Dubai. And they were like, we would like to do an interview with you because we're interviewing all the nominees. I was like, okay. I go inside this apartment and I'm expecting, like my first ever like English interview. And suddenly I see the team from the US entering with the trophy, and they're like, I still have the video, and they're like, Amro, congratulations, you're the winner. And I was like, still sitting on the couch. I was like, my name is Amro. Yeah, nice to meet you. Congratulations, you're the winner, and we're filming you. And I started shaking. I didn't cry. I started shaking. I was like, there's no way. And you're going, like to LA for the ceremony. And I was like, God, like hard work paid off, like I just got something. I know it's, like very materialistic to say that, but it felt, like really cool because maybe back then I really needed something to cheer me up, because I was going through again, this, like moving between cities phase and thingy and leaving my family again. But it was really, really, like one of the most beautiful moments I've ever like had on my social media.
It kind of gave that stamp of approval. Like,
yeah,
okay. But
again, when you go to LA and you're like walking on that carpet and nobody knows you eventually because they're all, like English speakers, right. And they ask people, like to clap for you, and you're like, yeah, of course you know me. And in front of you, like there's Ryan Reynolds and, like the Kardashians and stuff. And I'm like, okay, you're not clapping for me. You're doing that for them.
yeah, no, it's... But still, it's kind of, I mean...
It felt good.
I mean, think about the journey, right? From Syria to the situation that you left. And then the contrast between that moment and you're on the red carpet and you have all these celebrities, right?
Oh, definitely, yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy. Especially, like, again, it comes with the... to your first question, which is freedom.
And our last question. People watching this right now and they're like, I want to get to my moment in my own red carpet. I want to get to my own freedom, and whatever that freedom is for them. What advice can you give them to help them in that journey?
Be easy on yourself, be gentle, be soft, and try to digest every single emotion you go through. And it sounds very, like basic to say do whatever you want, but literally, like don't you ever stop. Don't you ever let anyone from your surrounding telling you that you're not worth it, that you're not beautiful, that you don't deserve it, because you deserve everything that's beautiful in this life. And you just have to give it a try.
That's beautiful advice. And thank you so much for sharing your journey and all the trials and how you've turned those trials and triumphs, and looking forward to witnessing more of your journey and more of your success.
Nido, thank you so much for having me. I hope this first English interview went, good, well, so far.
It was amazing. I loved it.
And I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you.